NBA playmakers. And so we're going to teach you how to have the perfect hand position when you shoot the basketball today. Now here's the thing, is there's no one perfect way to put your hand on the basketball. And it's a little bit different than what a lot of coaches are going to teach you. So today what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about 3 different options to put your hand on the basketball, and it's going to work better for different shooters, right? So some shooters are going to like one way, some shooters are going to like the other. So what you want to do is you want to experiment with all 3 and figure out which one works best for you. Now before we jump into it, I want to let you know you can click the link down below and get a free copy of my #1 shooting workout. This is a workout that's going to change the way you think about your training and probably increase your scoring average the first time you use it. So you definitely want to check that out. All right, so the very first one we have is kind of the most traditional one that we see a lot of players use, and that's a hand behind the basketball. So as they're getting ready to shoot, their hand is placed behind the basketball just like this. Now this one works well for some shooters because your wrist is already locked, so it's ready to snap when you come up through, and you can keep pretty good alignment on the basketball. Now there's a lot of great shooters that use this, but it also doesn't work for a lot of players. Now the issue with it is a lot of times if you're trying to get your hand behind the basketball, it's really tough to get your wrist down and back just like this without your elbow going out. So what we see with a lot of young shooters is as they're getting ready to shoot, they'll lock that wrist back, and it's going to naturally turn their elbow out, right? Or that chicken wing syndrome that we always see and talk about. Remember, the key to shooting is all about straight alignment. So if we lock our wrist back and our elbow goes out, that's tough. So the thing you can think about is the hand behind the ball works as long as your elbow's not going out. So what I like to do is I like to catch and freeze and watch a shooter's elbow and see where it's at, right? If they catch and they freeze right here and the elbow's out, probably not a good one for them. If they can do it and they can get their elbow underneath the basketball and load it lower with their body, then it just might work for them. So the #1 you can try is when you catch, boom, hand behind the basketball, wrinkles in the wrist early, that way you can snap it easy on your follow through. All right, so the next option that works great for a lot of players is hand on top of the ball, meaning that when you're getting ready to shoot, instead of your hand being behind the back, now you're gonna rotate your hand to the top. Now, this works great for some players, but other players, it adds a little bit of a hitch. So you notice that a lot of times when players have their hand on top, it'll come up and they'll lock their wrist late and then have to snap it at the very last second. So if you do like your hand on top of the ball, this is great because it's going to keep your elbow in alignment more so. You notice that it's hard for my elbow to start creeping out if my hand's on top. It's going to stay in alignment with my body. But the thing that we want to look out for is that last second hitch. So instead of bringing it up, keeping it flat, 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 and then flexing at the last second, we want to flex it earlier, more down by our chest or more down by our waist. So as I come up, I'm keeping it flat, 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 and then right here, I'm starting to lock it back. So it's locking as soon as it gets up on my set point. You see that again, as I bring it up, locking, locking, locking. Here we're at my set point. That way I can, boom, snap it forward, perfect, just like that. So again, the thing you want to look out for is that hitch, right? If you're bringing it up and you're already in the air and you're locking it back, it's going to cause some issues. But if you can lock it as it's coming up, it's going to be nice and smooth, and it's going to keep your elbow in perfect alignment. All right, so the next one we got is our hand on the side of the basketball. And this is something that a lot of people don't teach, but it actually works well for a lot of shooters, including myself. And I call it a palm rotation, meaning as you're getting ready to shoot, your hand's going to be on the side of the basketball. So it's almost like your palms are facing together. So with this, as you're bringing it up, you're going to rotate your hand around. So you notice that as I come up, you can see the ball kind of slipping in my guide hand. So it comes up, it's going to rotate around, and then it's going to snap through at the last second. This is something that Stephen Curry uses on his jumper quite a bit, and it's great because you can get a smooth transition up through the basket, and everything's nice and smooth, right? The issue that happens with a lot of players is they don't let it slide in their guide hand. So as they bring it up, their guide hand ends on the front of the ball, right? As I come through, if I don't slide on my guide hand, it's going to be right here and it's going to feel super weird. So you need to think about, got to be real soft with your guide hand. As I come through, smooth all the way through, snap it off straight down. All right, so that's an option that works well for a lot of players, but works terribly for others. So you can try it out and see if it works for you. All right, so those are the 3 main ways, but one thing you can think about is sometimes a combination works best. So this is another thing you can play with. So instead of being hand on the top or hand on the side, maybe it works better to have your hand in between the 2, and then it's kind of a hybrid of the 2. Instead of hand on the back or hand on the side, maybe your hand's kind of a hybrid in between the 2. So once you peg kind of maybe 1 or 2 that work pretty well and you're not sure which one, try some of those combos and see if maybe your hand position shifted just slightly can make a big difference. Because, you know, like we always talk about at Shot Mechanics, all shooters are different, and so not everybody's going to be the exact same. You know, although you might kind of like the hand straight behind the basketball, maybe if it's just slightly over to the side, it gets a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more alignment, a little bit more smooth. So play around with it and see what works best for you. All right, if this video helped you out,